Welcome to Think Global Education Services. This video is for reading comprehension introduction of the SAT test. I'm assuming that we've already seen the videos for the writing introduction and the overall test introduction. This one is specifically for the reading section. So let me quickly, without wasting any time, take you to the reading section. Reading section of the SAT is basically about how you read passages and the questions that you solve along. We've already seen in our previous videos of the introduction of test that you get a little more than an hour, 65 minutes, and you need to solve around 52 questions while you're reading a lot of passages. Yes. So how the passages are usually divided is you get 4 passages that are just single passages, one passage along with it, you'll get 10 or 11 questions, and you get a set of 2 passages. So you have 2 types of passages here. Yeah. So first you get mostly, I'm not saying always, but mostly you'll get first 4 passages are single passage and the last passage is dual passage. Sometimes the second last passage is the dual passage. A set of dual passages where the questions would be based on passage 1, passage 2, and some questions would be based on both the passages. Usually, the topic that we see on SAT reading is from one US literature, world literature or US literature, followed by 10 questions. It doesn't mean that this is always the first passage. It could be first or second or third, anywhere. You will get 2 history or social studies passages, again 10 to 11 questions each. 2 science, again you will get 10 to 11 questions each. You will also get 1 graphic based question. It could be here mostly, sometimes here in the history or science. Graphic question as in the graph and the passage should relate with each other. So you'll get some chart or a table. This is somewhat similar to the writing section graph. Although over there you have to check the grammar as well. Here you don't have to do that. So what type of questions are tested, that we would be looking at in a bit. So how we divide the reading section here to learn and to get better is to have an approach towards the passage and then approach towards the questions. When I say approach the passage, most students, because it's like the longest thing you see and question is probably 1 line, options are just 4, so they spend a lot of time reading the passage. That's something we are going to not do. We need to make sure that we don't keep reading for 5 to 10 minutes, because frankly you're not going to be tested on what have you read. SAT tests you on how much have you understood the context and can you answer the questions that are asked. So we skim the passage. And how do we skim the passage? I'll show it to you in another video of mine. Yeah? Or you can say we speed read the passage. The entire passage, which would be around 500 words or so, should be read in a minute, or let's say if you're not a very good reader, then 2 minutes, but not more than that. Because see, we have to save time for the thing that we are actually going to be scored on. That means your options, of which you have to select 1 correct answer. Yes. So this time we have to save, and how do we do that? We'll discuss that in another video. While we are skimming the passage, we of course take notes in a word or 2, like passage 1, paragraph 1 said this, paragraph 2 said this, paragraph 3 said this, in your speed reader, in your skimming, so that you have a good map set in your mind that if my question asks me so and so thing, I need to not read paragraph 1 again or 2 again. I'll directly go to paragraph 3. So we set a few words here. While we read, we also anticipate that after first paragraph, probably this is going to come, the next one. And if that did not happen, something else happened, then how did the transition happen? So we focus on the transition. Now, why are we doing this? Because our questions are going to be based on, let's say, the tone of the author. So we'll understand the tone and the overall structure of the passage if we do this way. If we don't just keep reading. And I'm not sure how many of you realized this, but it happens a lot to me. Like you're reading, and after you've read like a paragraph, you think that I've read all the words, every word, but I really don't know what is happening, the meaning. So while you take all of this, while you skim, take notes, anticipate, look at the transition and summarize. You have to throughout be focused. That's very, very important. Next, what you should know is that we should target the specific questions. Not necessarily, but that's a suggestion. Try using, try solving the specific questions first because they are easy questions. And even if it's easy or difficult, it all carries the same marks. So what are specific questions? We'll discuss it further once we'll do the question types. But that's optional. I mean, for few people, I've seen that specific questions are not really, not all, but a few types of specific questions are not always easy. So my whole idea of telling you is that you should target the easy questions first, by which I do not mean that read all the questions and then select which one to do. That way you will waste a lot of time. What you should do is read a question, see if this type of question is your strength, and you would know that after you've solved a lot of tests. So see if it's your strength, stick to it. If it's not, mark it and come back to it later. Yeah? Later doesn't mean after all the passages, within this time itself, while you're doing this particular passage. So you have, let's say, assigned yourself 9 minutes for this passage. So within 9 minutes, do all the questions and then come back to it if you have left time. Okay, let's move further. So the type of questions that I was talking about since all this while, we can just categorize them easily in all of these words. Yeah, you have something called evidence-based question, which means that how did you get the previous question correct? Where is the key located? So in evidence question could be the second question to detail, vocab and context, purpose, or anything. All it asks is that you got the previous question correct, inference question correct. How? Where is the inference? What did you read that made you choose that particular option? Where is the evidence to that? So you have to go back to the passage, the lines that are given to you in the options. You have to go back to those lines, read them carefully, and tell that which line helped you choose the answer to the previous question. So you get 2 questions correct there. Detail question, it's basically a type of question which we say is a what question, WHAT what type of question. So it asks for detail. You have to go back to the passage, you have to see how the passage is written, paraphrase, and find the answer. Not too difficult, like the questions that you must have done in your school passages also. Then there is inference question. Inference question means that things are not really written in the passage, what the question is asking, but you have enough clues to prove the answer. Yeah, so that's inference. You get approximately 9 questions in the entire test based on this. You get 11 evidence question. You have vocab and context question, which usually I tell students to target first because it's easy. Second, it doesn't take a lot of time. So you can get, let's say, 3 questions correct and solving one inference question. Vocab and context doesn't mean you need the exact vocabulary meaning or it is testing you on your vocabulary building skills here. It only means something as simple as a word shade is given. Now shade can have multiple meaning. You have to go back and see that in this line, what is the meaning? Like if I say shade of life, shade of your life, or if I say shades of green, that means very different. Okay, let's move further. If I say purpose question, the word itself suggests the word why. What's the purpose? So it's a why based question. The difference between detail and purpose, it's a what question and it's a why question. In your options, the 4 options that are given, if one of the option is correct and it gives a why, like why it's correct according to the passage and it gives you the reason for something. But the question asked is a detailed question and you've selected the option which is for purpose question, you will not get points. So you need to make sure that you read the question carefully. After your passage reading is done, then next part is read the question carefully and categorize which type of question is it, and then look at the options. So you don't get the correct answer according to the passage, but you get the correct answer according to the question. You get approximately 5 questions depicting graph or chart or table, and they are usually easy. We'll go to those questions also later. Then there is this main idea question, 4 questions. Like every passage will have one question based on what's the main idea, why did the author write this. Well, if you've done your speed read or your skimming properly, then you don't really have to read the entire passage again to answer this question. Rather, if this is the first question of the passage, you can just straight away answer this. So this is a very general question. So after you've read the passage, what did you get? Why did the author write it? So if you read it with the approach that this is what the author wanted and that's why he's writing, it's not like today he is just bored because the corona is not letting you do anything and he's not letting me write anything. Even if that was the situation, he would have thought, why is he writing? It's not just general writing. Yeah, we already know the type of passages and we'll definitely not have a general writing here. Yeah, so 4 questions of that. You have to be, so how do you tackle each option, that we will discuss in a bit. But here the main idea question is, why did the author write? That's how you should keep it in mind. Yeah. Next, only in case of dual passages, you will get the question which is based on both the passages. So approximately 3 questions. It can be 2 questions also sometimes. So what over here, what is the ICT expecting here is that you read passage 1, you read passage 2. Now, how did the author of passage 2 will respond to something that is said by passage 1? So for that, you need to know the tone of both passages. If you know what has happened in both passages, what's the author's mindset, why did he write both these passages, if he's positive or negative about the content, how is he giving the views of other people, then you will be able to answer this question based on 2 passages. So what I would suggest in dual passage, when you get these type of questions based on 2 passages, hold on to those until you have solved all the specific questions. So see, if you've solved, let's say 7 questions, that means you have read passage again for solving those questions. 7 times, not the entire passage, but let's say 3 lines, 4 lines for the other one paragraph for another, or maybe 1 line for another. But that way, some of your lines of the passages have been revisited. Now that means that you are now in a better position than your first reading, while you were reading all the lines, but briefly. So solve all those specific questions. You will get less time to solve all of that. And then in the remaining time, do these, so that if at all you get these questions incorrect, you at least have got the other ones correct. And if at all you are not able to finish test on time, you at least scored on the other questions. And then you move to this one, choose whatever you want to and move further if there is no time. Never leave an answer blank, because you don't get negative marking. So don't leave it blank, just choose something. You will get tone questions in passage as well. See, the thing is, you get only about 3, 4, maybe 2 tone questions in the entire SAT reading comprehension section. But tone is very important in order to do even the main idea question, or the relationship question, or the purpose question. So this tone, even though you don't have a lot of questions based on that, needs to be taken care while you skim the passage, because this tells you overall idea of the passage. Yeah. Now, basically you get questions from here. But if you get 1 or 2 questions which are not a part of this, very rarely you see something like an analogy based question, wherein you see that of the below options, which one is closely related to the let's say last paragraph. So the options will not talk anything about the passage, but tell you something totally different. But how is that related, and like, is that the same context which is discussed in last paragraph, usually in literature passages? So that kind of question may also you may also see that. I'll try to cover all of these questions in my videos further while we solve the questions and the real SAT passages. If there would be any other thing, any part of miscellaneous question that you faced and you don't know how to answer that, we can probably take care of in our one-on-one classes. Yeah. So overall, you get 52 questions. I've just told you all the question types. We'll keep it for here today, and I will meet you in another video with detailing of how to skim the passage and how to solve the questions. All right.